seen so far from the strikes, dramatic footage from the heart of Tel Aviv is now showing the devastating aftermath of what social media is calling a direct ballistic missile strike. Shaky handheld camera pans across the scene of a total destruction. Inside a building, thick clouds of dust and smoke fill the air, lit only by a piercing flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Now the floor is buried under piles of shattered concrete blocks. You can see that on your screens, tiles and twisted debris. Cracked walls, collapsed sections are visible as the lens moves unsteadily through the rubble-strewn interior. Complete damage and destruction. Israeli officials have not yet issued an official confirmation of this specific location, but rescue teams are on high alert. Total damage and destruction on your screens. Let's move on to some more updates as well. While we are showing these visuals, let's move on to some more updates from Iran now. Shocking images are also coming from Iran. A top Iranian tech university and engineering university has been turned into smoking rubble following a US-Israeli airstrike. And in fact, Iranian strikes have also rained down on Tel Aviv. The Iranian strikes on Tel Aviv have left now one dead, with several others injured. All right, let's put that breaking news plate as well on our screens. Now we're picking up of at least one more death from Iranian strikes. Several others have been injured. General Dwivedi, I want to talk to you about the US's approach to the war. Do you think it is possible at all that the US did not know that if it were to strike Iran was not going to go ahead with blocking the Strait of Hormuz? Of course, the US knew and Pentagon warned Trump of that. But apparently, Israel believed that if we kill Khamenei, Iran would be shattered. There would be no authority left to take the command. But that, of course, did not happen. And now US and Israel along with it is left dumbfounded.
Well, Kriti, first and foremost, the war plans are made on certain assumptions. And those assumptions are very critical. And when those assumptions either are not fulfilled or get violated, then of course you have to change your plans. The second point is, in war, no plan goes through its initial aims and objectives, because there are two sides, and therefore every plan has to be modified, has to be rethought, and a lot of mid-course correction go on. So the point at issue is, yes, you are right, that when Americans or Israelis, they plan their war aims and they plan the war strategy, they possibly assume that once we decapitate the top leadership, there will be a collapse of the regime and people will come out on the streets, there will be a regime change. Well, that presumption has gone awry. The second point is that what currently is going on, please remember, Iran has been weakened. Then terrestrial strikes, which are about 80, 90 missiles being launched, now they are come reduced and they are only sporadic missile hits. It's not that the Iranians have not been weakened. And currently, as reports say, that it is IRGC which is actually, calling the shots and which is actually orchestrating the war.
Yes.
So the issue is, definitely there have been certain miscalculations on the part of Israelis and Americans as far as the response of Iranians are concerned. And in war, as a war veteran, I can say, well, you can quantify the performance of the machines, but you can never quantify the performance of human beings. Who thought on 24th February 2022, when President Putin went into Ukraine, every one of us said it will be all over in 2 to 3 weeks' time. But Ukraine is still fighting into the 5th year. So human capacity, human responses are very, very difficult to gauge. So to that extent, yes, one can say with no hesitation that American-Israelis presumption as far as the Iranian response is concerned, I think have been grossly miscalculated because they wanted to end the war in a very shortest possible time, but this has not happened. Now they are rethinking mid-course correction and now possibly even the ground operations are being discussed and the option is on the table. So just to sum it up, or I would say in the brief analysis, war plans never go through as initially they are planned. They are always miscalculation, mispresumptions, and therefore you have to keep modifying your war aims, and also you do a lot of mid-course correction. But in this case, I think definitely Israelis and Americans have miscalculated and their assumptions have not proved right. Clearly.
Yes, definitely. General, once again, stay on. Let's go across to now some damage and the visuals from the damage that's being reported from Tehran, where a top Iranian tech and engineering university was turned into smoke rubble following a US-Israeli airstrike on it. Dramatic video circulating from the scene shows heavy destruction at Amir Kabir University of Technology, which is also known as the Polytechnic Tehran University, one of Iran's leading institutions for science and engineering. The footage now reveals piles of concrete debris, collapsed building sections, thick plumes of smoke rising into the night sky, and scattered fires with visible sparks and glowing embers. Rescue or assessment teams can be seen moving through the chaotic, dust-filled site under flashlight beams as heavy structural damage is clearly visible. We can also see that on our screens. Shruti, I want to come to you here. Of course, all this damage, how long do you think it will now take for Iran to come to pre-war era? The damage that's been reported at its infrastructure, life, of course, normal daily life has been completely shattered. How long before Iran can rebuild itself?
If the sanctions continue and there's just like a pause in war or a ceasefire of sorts rather than actual peace, then it will take another 30-40 years to come back to its point before the war. Because you have to understand, this was not just one war, this is phase 2 of the same war that happened last year in June.
Yeah.
So the destruction is a continuous form that is happening as of now, and so it will take another 30 years for it to come back to a prosperous state as it was now, to again build up the kind of military might it had, to have its reactors stabilized and functioning for the benefit of its people, just its people. I'm not going towards the enrichment part. But it is with the sanctions. If there's actual peace, and and Iran is able to transact with the world, with the global hike in prices, with Qatar under Qatar LNG not being available to the world, a large amount of refineries in the Middle East not being available, I think it would take another 10 to 15 years if sanctions are lifted. 10 to 15 years, because you have to understand, Iran made billions when the trade was it was allowed to trade on ship of its Iranian oil. It made billions via the shadow fleet during these few weeks of war.
Yes.
Because the oil prices are up, everybody wants to shore up, and everybody wants to have, even if you have reserves, you want more reserves. So it has made billions during this time. Those billions are going to be used exactly to rebuild Iran. It's going to be used to restock its armaments. But if there is peace, then it also means that Tehran will get access to the frozen assets that are there all over the world, and it also means that it is going to get some form of reparations, because that is one of the demands for peace. So if there are reparations coming in, frozen assets are released, that's why a 10 to 15 year cycle with heavy investment in infrastructure can be seen. But that is the point. If there is peace, only 10 to 15 years. If there is no peace, only a ceasefire, then another 30 to 40 years, because the funds will stay frozen, transactions will be frozen, trade will be watched with a hawk eye, and maybe because of its enmity that it has gained with the neighboring nations, there may not be that many people willing to stand up for Iran and its trade.
Yes, all right. Shruti, thanks very much for your assessment. Also, thank General Dwivedi for joining me here. With that, viewers, we are now taking a very quick break. Stay tuned to NewsX. We'll come back with more news and updates from the war front.